The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. Ocean is more ancient than the mountains, and freighted with the memories and the dreams of time. The process of delving into the black abyss is to me the keenest form of fascination. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity, and it was not meant that we should voyage far. It is absolutely necessary, for the peace and safety of mankind, that some of Earth's dark, dead corners and unplumbed depths be let alone, lest sleeping abnormalities wake to resurgent life, and blasphemously surviving nightmares squirm and splash out of their black lairs to newer and wider conquests. The world is indeed comic, but the joke is on mankind. The most merciful thing in the world is the inability of the human mind to correlate all its contents. Personally, I would not care for immortality in the least. There is nothing better than oblivion, since in oblivion there is no wish unfulfilled. We had it before we were born yet did not complain. Shall we whine because we know it will return? It is Elysium enough for me, at any rate. From even the greatest of horrors, irony is seldom absent. Blue, green, gray, white, or black, smooth, ruffled, or mountainous, that ocean is not silent. If religion were true, its followers would not try to bludgeon their young into an artificial conformity, but would merely insist on their unbending quest for truth, irrespective of artificial backgrounds or practical consequences. Cats are the runes of beauty, invincibility, wonder, pride, freedom, coldness, self-sufficiency, and dainty individuality, the qualities of sensitive, enlightened, mentally developed, pagan, cynical, poetic, philosophic, dispassionate, reserved, independent, Nietzschean, unbroken, civilized, masterclass men. Plots may be simple or complex, but suspense, and climactic progress from one incident to another, are essential. Every incident in a fictional work should have some bearing on the climax or denouement, and any denouement which is not the inevitable result of the preceding incidents is awkward and unliterary. We call ourselves a dog's master, but whoever dared to call himself the master of a cat? We own a dog, he is with us as a slave and inferior because we wish him to be. But we entertain a cat, he adorns our hearth as a guest, fellow lodger, and equal because he wishes to be there. It is a mistake to fancy that horror is associated inextricably with darkness, silence, and solitude. I am not very proud of being a human being. In fact, I distinctly dislike the species in many ways. I can readily conceive of beings vastly superior in every respect. Adulthood is hell. I never ask a man what his business is, for it never interests me. What I ask him about are his thoughts and dreams. Bunch together a group of people deliberately chosen for strong religious feelings, and you have a practical guarantee of dark morbidities expressed in crime, perversion, and insanity. Children will always be afraid of the dark, and men with minds sensitive to hereditary impulse will always tremble at the thought of the hidden and fathomless worlds of strange life which may pulsate in the gulfs beyond the stars, or press hideously upon our own globe in unholy dimensions which only the dead and the moonstruck can glimpse. Toil without song is like a weary journey without an end. Fear is our deepest and strongest emotion, and the one which best lends itself to the creation of nature-defying illusions. Throw a stick, and the servile dog wheezes and pants and shambles to bring it to you. Do the same before a cat, and he will eye you with coolly polite and somewhat bored amusement. But more wonderful than the lore of old men and the lore of books is the secret lore of ocean. I am essentially a recluse who will have very little to do with people wherever he may be. I think that most people only make me nervous, that only by accident, and in extremely small quantities, would I ever be likely to come across people who wouldn't. Unhappy is he to whom the memories of childhood bring only fear and sadness. The end of a story must be stronger rather than weaker than the beginning, since it is the end which contains the denouement or culmination and which will leave the strongest impression upon the reader. Atmosphere, not action, is the great desideratum of weird fiction. Indeed, all that a wonder story can ever be is a vivid picture of a certain type of human mood. All of my tales are based on the fundamental premise that common human laws and emotions have no validity or significance in the cosmos at large. A dog is a pitiful thing, depending wholly on companionship, and utterly lost except in packs or by the side of his master. Leave him alone, and he does not know what to do except bark and howl and trot about till sheer exhaustion forces him to sleep. To the scientist there is the joy in pursuing truth which nearly counteracts the depressing revelations of truth. But are not the dreams of poets and the tales of travelers notoriously false? The cat is such a perfect symbol of beauty and superiority that it seems scarcely possible for any true aesthete and civilized cynic to do other than worship it. I couldn't live a week without a private library. Indeed, I'd part with all my furniture and squat and sleep on the floor before I'd let go of the 1,500 or so books I possess. I could not write about ordinary people, because I am not in the least interested in them. I fear my enthusiasm flags when real work is demanded of me. We shall see that at which dogs howl in the dark, and that at which cats prick up their ears after midnight. Life is a hideous thing, and from the background behind what we know of it peer demoniacal hints of truth which make it sometimes 1,000-fold more hideous. The real lover of cats is one who demands a clearer adjustment to the universe than ordinary household platitudes provide, one who refuses to swallow the sentimental notion that all good people love dogs, children, and horses while all bad people dislike and are disliked by such. Horrors, I believe, should be original, the use of common myths and legends being a weakening influence. One can never produce anything as terrible and impressive as one can awesomely hint about. Children, old crones, peasants, and dogs ramble, cats and philosophers stick to their point. There are not many persons who know what wonders are open to them in the stories and visions of their youth, for when as children we listen and dream, we think but half-formed thoughts, and when as men we try to remember, we are dulled and prosaic with the poison of life. It is no compliment to be the stupidly idolized master of a dog whose instinct it is to idolize, but it is a very distinct tribute to be chosen as the friend and confidant of a philosophic cat who is wholly his own master and could easily choose another companion if he found such an one more agreeable and interesting. My nervous system is a shattered wreck, and I am absolutely bored and listless save when I come upon something which peculiarly interests me. Never should an unfamiliar word be passed over without elucidation, for, with a little conscientious research, we may each day add to our conquests in the realm of philology and become more and more ready for graceful independent expression. Certain of Poe's tales possess an almost absolute perfection of artistic form which makes them veritable beacon lights in the province of the short story. Indeed, there is much in pure humanitarian culture, as opposed to rigid scientific training, which encourages absorption in the affairs of mankind, and more or less indifference to the unfathomed abysses of star-strewn space that yawn interminably about this terrestrial grain of dust. For correct writing, the cultivation of patience and mental accuracy is essential. Throughout the young author's period of apprenticeship, he must keep reliable dictionaries and textbooks at his elbow, eschewing as far as possible that hasty extemporaneous manner of writing which is the privilege of more advanced students. I do not think that any realism is beautiful. Visit our website for more quotes, quoting.com.